welcome back to the Review Diaries. I am your host, Jackie Moore, and if you are watching on YouTube, you can actually see me, which I was working on last week, but it was not possible for me to do it, and I just wanted to take a moment to reflect on last week's launch, just because it was crazy and I was rushing it like so much, but I'm glad that I got the episodes out, and I'm very thankful for anybody that was able to listen to the first episodes. It was very nerve-wracking and scary for me, so thank you so much if you took the time to listen. I recorded all of the episodes like on the same day, and my allergies were also acting up very much, and they were just crazy, so my energy levels were very low, and I was also very nervous. So it's all a learning experience, and we will just grow together and learn to be rid of our nerves eventually. With this episode, like I said, I was finally able to kind of figure out a setup for YouTube, because I did want to integrate video content with the podcast. So if you're watching on YouTube, hello. I hope that this setup kind of works. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I think it works for now, just because where I'm recording, there's not much space. It is my room. So I don't know. I just am excited to get into this week's episode. Like I said in the last episode, this week was going to be a movie review of Sydney Sweeney and Glen Powell's 2023 romantic comedy Anyone But You. And if you've heard anything about the movie, it is really breaking records at the box office. As far as rom-coms go, I think it's been a while since a rom-com has really taken over the box office, and I think mainly the reason why this one did so well, I mean, it is a good movie, but I think the drama behind the scenes, or the rumors, if you hadn't heard, people had been saying that Glen and Sydney kind of had a behind the scenes affair, and then Glen Powell was in a relationship at the time of filming or press, and then they broke up, and it was really in the heat of all the rumors that were going on, and it was a long-term relationship. And then Sydney has been in a pretty low-key relationship with somebody for the longest time, but people were just really running with these rumors for some reason. I don't know why. They did have really good chemistry in the film, I feel but I don't personally think that they slept together or they hooked up. It's just, I don't know. It was really good marketing on their part if they decided to run with the rumors and not say anything about it, in my opinion. I mean, Sydney was one of the producers for the movie. It was through her production company that she has been starting, and she's been doing a lot of films recently with that. So I think it was a smart move on her part to run with the rumors, really, because it worked. Worked really well for them. So the movie starts off with B, played by Sydney Sweeney, and she is at her law firm internship, and she's seen running out of the building basically to go into a coffee shop and ask to use the bathroom. So the barista tells her she can't use it unless she buys something, and she kind of tries to throw some legal jargon at her, being well, you can't do that, it's blah 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 blah, and the barista's I don't care. She fully ignores her, and she's I'm just going to keep doing my job. And she really has to fucking pee, so she keeps asking her, and the barista's just ignoring her. And then a man who is in line kind of notices the interaction, and it's obviously Glen Powell. So he plays it off and acts like she is his wife and orders a drink for her. He's hey honey, do you want the usual so and so? And she's kind of okay. And then she's yeah, just get me whatever, her favorite drink. So there's a slight flirtation there, and then he gets his barista that's doing his drink to get him the bathroom key. So she thanks him, and then he's I'll wait for you, I'll wait for your drink, whatever. So he kind of hangs around while she's in the bathroom. So while she's in the bathroom finishing up, she calls somebody by the name of Hallie and tells her that she met someone in the coffee shop. So she's on the phone washing her hands, and then she splashes herself with water, literally all over. So it looks like she kind of peed her pants, basically. So she takes her pants off and she starts drying them. with the like hand dryer machine that's in the bathroom, and she's in like all kinds of crazy positions, like over it, like kind of climbing over the sink so she can like get her basically vagina like in the in the thing so it can like blow like warm air on her pants or whatever. And she is struggling. She's being very loud in the bathroom and people outside can hear her, and they're kind of like, what the fuck is going on in that bathroom? So he kind of like so the guy played by Glen Powell kind of goes to the door and asks her, he's like, hey, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I just haven't peed in like the last 7 hours. I just started this new internship and didn't want to ask anybody where the bathroom was, blah, blah, blah. So now we learn that she is in law school. So she comes out and she's like about to like say bye to him and just run out. So he notices that she has toilet paper stuck to the bottom of her shoe. So he kind of stops her to tell her that she has toilet paper in there. And she assumes that he's going to ask her out. And he kind of plays it off, and he's like, yeah, by the way, my name is Ben. So they leave the coffee shop, and he kind of nonchalantly steps on the toilet paper at the bottom of her shoe for her as they're walking out of the building. So we have a montage of their day together as they're getting to know each other, and they eventually get to his apartment, and they're cooking like a grilled cheese sandwich. And throughout the entire montage we can see that they have like really good chemistry. They're like making jokes, they're being flirty, so there is like a connection and a spark there, so that was cute. And so they're talking, getting to know each other, and then she kind of reveals to him that she doesn't know if she wants to be a lawyer at all, which kind of shocks him, and then they kind of bond a little bit over that. And then she notices that he has this like giant wrench statue thing on his wall, and she asks what that is. And he says that his mom gave it to her. And that's pretty much all he says about that. He doesn't really talk a lot about his mom. After that, they talk all night and they end up falling asleep on the couch. So the next morning, B wakes up and she's getting ready to leave the apartment. And as she's putting her shoes on, Ben wakes up and notices that she leaves without saying goodbye. And that makes him like a little bit upset for some reason. You know, they had really good chemistry, a really good date. She kind of does like the little walk of shame without even really telling him anything, so that upsets him. And then now outside, B is on the phone again with Hallie, with the Hallie that she was on the phone with previously, and says that Ben is like great, and she tells her all they did and that she left before she could wake up. So she panics, and then she kind of regrets like leaving him, so she decides to go back to Ben, so she runs back. And then Ben's roommate Pete shows up, and they talk about the night before and everything. So Pete kind of jokes at Ben that he's in love because he has never told anybody about his mom, and he told B even though he just met her. So the door to the apartment is open for some reason. I guess Pete just left it open, so B kind of reaches the apartment, and she jumps into frame and can see and hear them talking. And Ben kind of tries to play it cool, and he says that B's a disaster and he couldn't get her out of the apartment long enough, and he says that she's nothing, which was really shitty, and she obviously overhears and it upsets her, which I don't know why he like was so mean about that. He could have literally just been like, it was nothing, we just had met. So I don't know why he was like so offended that his friend had asked him that. I mean, I know that he was joking with him, but I don't know why his opinion was so strong about it. He could have just, I don't know, been a little bit nicer. He didn't have to call her nothing and say that he couldn't have gotten her out of there fast enough. That was shitty. So obviously she overhears and she's upset, so she just kind of leaves. And then the beginning has a lot of time jumps, which was jarring. I don't like a lot of time jumps when movies are being first established, but it served the purpose of the film because afterwards it's very quick, but a lot of time jumps in the beginning for some reason. So we jump to 6 months later, and they haven't talked to each other since then, since the first night that they hung. So it jumps to 6 months later, and they haven't seen each other or talked to each other since the first night that they hung out. And then Ben is at a club with his roommate Pete, and then their friend Claudia and her new girlfriend Hallie, who turns out to be B's sister. And then B also happens to show up at the same club. Pete and Claudia are siblings, and they all kind of grew up together with Ben. And then B shows up to the club, and everyone kind of starts putting the pieces together about who B is and who Ben is, like, to each other. And I guess, like, all the shit that they kind of talked about each other in the 6 months that they've seen each other. So they immediately start bickering with one another. Ben makes a snide comment about where the exit is, since that is, like, B's thing, basically. And then B says, well, yeah, I am, like, a disaster or whatever. And Ben's kind of like, he kind of reacts a little bit to that. So I guess he realizes that she heard what he had said. So they bicker a little bit more as the group is, like, putting the pieces together about who they are to each other. And then we learn that B is also engaged now. And then there's another time jump. It doesn't say how long, which was a continuity error, and I did not appreciate. If there's going to be multiple time jumps at the beginning, specify. But basically it is the wedding announcement of Claudia and Hallie, and they're getting married in Australia. So the next scene is Ben on a flight to Sydney in first class, and then B is on the same flight, but she is in coach. So he sees her and comes to talk to her at her seat, and she's sitting next to an older man. So he kind of makes a joke and is like, oh, is this your fiance? And the man's like, what the fuck, kind of thing. So Ben kind of starts making a joke with the older man that he was his hall pass while they were on a break, and that Pete told him that they had broken up. So sometime later, B wakes up on the flight and she has to use the bathroom, but the one that is on her side is occupied. So she goes to the first class cabin and it's also occupied. And as she's walking back, she sees Ben asleep in his seat, and she sees that he has cookies in his seat. So she kind of decides to climb over his seat to steal it. So she is literally, like, straddling him on top, because there's, like, someone else, like, next to him on the seat, and the sleeve of her top gets stuck in the seat as she is climbing over him. So her ass is literally, like, in his face as she is trying to pull off the sweater from where it's stuck in between the seat. So there's a lady, like, on the next aisle over, and she's kind of like, what the fuck, kind of thing. So she nearly topples over him while she's trying to get her sleeve out of the seat, and then she hears a song Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield playing over his headphones. So she's like what the fuck. And that's like a motif throughout the film, is that specific song. So eventually they land in Sydney, and Pete is the one to pick them up, and then everyone is staying at Pete's stepdad's house for the weekend. So the house is, like, literally stunning. It's huge. It has, like, they're on their own, like, little tiny island. They have their own, like, private beach, which is amazing. Like, the house is just incredible. So everyone, like B, Ben, Hallie, and Claudia, they all head to the beach, and then Margaret, who is Ben's ex-girlfriend, is on the beach also. So B and Hallie are kind of talking, and then Hallie mentions how everyone is worried how B is going to react to the wedding, because she was the one that was supposed to, like, be getting married first, basically. And B is kind of like, no, that's not me anymore. Like I promise, I'll be literally fine. I'm going to support you, and I will be happy for you, which is sweet of her. And then you see Ben and Margaret in the background kind of talking, and Margaret is Claudia's cousin, and she apparently broke his heart. And then B's like, no, he doesn't, like, have a heart. So, and then Margaret and Ben are talking, and then we meet her new Australian surfer boyfriend, Beau. So back at the house, B is on her LinkedIn updating her information, and then we see her pull up an email from Brown University where she is studying law, and we see that she has actually dropped out of law school. So her mom calls out to her, and then B like kind of scrambles to shut her computer off so her parents would see it, and then they all kind of greet each other. Her dad's there also, and then they're like, oh, how's our like little future lawyer? And then she kind of lies and she's like, oh yeah, like I'm great. And then they ask if she's heard anything from Jonathan, who is the ex-fiance, and they say that he was like basically family to them, and that they had known each other since they were kids, and that they think he's a great guy. So next scene is B kind of in the bathroom kind of crying, since she is like clearly upset about her parents' expectations of her and what they want from her, that she's clearly like not meeting their expectations, and that's not what she wants, basically. I mean, it's a running theme throughout the film that her parents kind of like have all these expectations of her, and they put all this pressure on her, and it's not really like what makes her happy or what she wants, which is kind of sad that, you know, she's trying to figure out her life and what she wants while still trying to make her parents happy, but she can't really seem to do that. So later that night, this is actually one of my favorite scenes in the film. I think it's pretty funny. So the entire family and guests for the wedding, they're having like this dinner party, and everyone's kind of having a great time. They're eating and drinking. So they take out some sage to cleanse the energy in the room, but specifically Ben and B, because everyone kind of knows that they hate each other and they want the wedding to go well, and they don't want them to like ruin anything, basically. So they start kind of playing games, and unironically Ben and B are on the same team, and the entire time they're just bickering, throwing jabs at each other, and kind of bitching, and to the point where even during one round Ben picks up a firework. It's like a guess the song title type of game, and it's Firework by Katy Perry. So he kind of picks up a firework, and B's like, no, you're a cheater, blah 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 blah, and somehow they like unintentionally light the firework, and as it's about to like go off and explode in their hands, they point it towards the guest, and there's like this huge flower thing. It's like a wreath basically for decoration, and they kind of point it towards that, and it hits the flower wreath, and it like explodes, and it singes part of Hallie's hair, which was just literally hilarious. I was dying watching that scene. I thought it was so funny. So now that the party is over and everyone's back inside, both families are kind of trying to plot how to avoid Ben and B ruining the wedding for everybody. So they kind of decide to trick them into liking each other, and even maybe get them to have sex, so they'll stop arguing and accidentally ruining everything, or even making it worse for everybody, probably even more awkward. So Pete and his stepfather are outside, and they kind of decide to insinuate to Ben that B still has feelings for him, even though Ben's like not really in the conversation, if that makes sense. Pete and his stepdad are like on one side of this wall, and Ben is on the other side, and so he's hidden while he's listening to them talk about it. And at the same time, Claudia and Hallie are doing the same thing to be inside the house. And so as Ben comes inside the house to talk to B, he kind of tries to play it cool, but she says that she's realized like what their plan is and what they're trying to do, about them like wanting to get together, have sex, whatever. So Claudia's mom like abruptly comes into the frame and like freaks him out. So she asks them to go get Roger, which is the stepdad's sunglasses, off the boat. So as they are swimming to this like boat that is kind of a little bit off the shore, Ben says that he is not fit enough to swim long distances, and that he can only do cardio. So B's like, oh my god, you're like hot girl fit, because he's like literally ripped. Like, I don't understand. He is literally ripped and he can barely swim, but whatever. It cuts to B kind of grabbing him and helping him swim across onto the boat. So B's parents come onto the beach with Jonathan, her like ex-boyfriend, ex-fiance, who they flew across the world for the wedding just so they could get back together. So B kind of suggested Ben that they actually do pretend that they are together so that his ex-girlfriend Margaret will get jealous, and so that her parents will get off her back about Jonathan and getting back together with him. So in the next scene, the group decides to go on a hike together, and Ben and B kind of begin their ruse to convince their families that they are together. So Jonathan comes in and he introduces himself to everyone. So B's parents suggest that they spend time together, kind of like them just in the real world, to rekindle what they have. But she tells them that she is with Ben and that she's not going to do that. So while on the hike, Ben and B are acting like they're a couple. They're kind of cuddling, nuzzling their necks together, but they're actually bickering like in secret, even though nobody can really hear them. They just kind of see them playing it off, and they kind of get to like this cliff, and everyone's kind of like looking at the view, just kind of talking. And so they are kind of all like looking, and then B and Ben are they start gripping like their asses as like a way to show that they're like flirty with each other. I don't know. I don't get the ass grip part. And no one's looking at them while they're doing this, so I found that even funnier. So Peter finds a koala, and this is like all in the meantime of B and Ben like grabbing their asses together. So as B is putting her hand on Ben's ass, she notices that he's not wearing any underwear, and she accidentally puts her finger like literally up his ass. So he simultaneously is grabbing her ass, and then B is like, do you have like a mole on your butt? Because she can like feel something on there, and he's like, no, I don't have anything. And it turns out that it is a fucking spider on his ass. So this is probably the funniest scene like in the movie, at least for me. So he like literally freaks out and panics. He rips off like his entire outfit, like his shirt and his shorts, and I think even his shoes at some point. And he throws everything off like in a panic. So he's literally like buck naked, and he's yelling at B like, look and see if there's anything else in there, like look at my ass, blah 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 blah. He like is bending over so she can like see his ass crack and see if there's any spiders in there. So literally while all this is going on, like he is literally screaming, and everyone else in the group is looking at this koala that is like in the tree, and they're just like amazed. I mean, it's beautiful and it's cute, but he is just, and no one has any idea that all of this is going on. And it's this like amazing shot that I thought was so well planned out. And it's the group at the front of the shot with the koala, and then in the background you can see B and Ben just like literally like screaming around like chickens with their heads cut off. It was so funny. So Ben is literally like naked, panicking, clutching his penis with his hand, as B is like trying to like see if there's anything else in there in his ass crack, like whatever. So the next scene after that is Ben with B's parents at the pool, and they're kind of bonding, getting to know one another, and her parents ask if they're actually getting to know one another, and he says yes. So once they're alone, B asks Ben if the story he told about his mother's wrench in the apartment is true, or if it's just another line to get women into bed, basically. So he apologizes for what he said, and that he didn't mean it, and that the wrench thing was not a line. So they have a little cute bonding moment, and he does apologize for what he said to her, which I thought was good. I feel like they needed that little step to move further. So Jonathan and B are playing chess with this life-size massive set, basically. So they are catching up with one another, and it is like a sweet moment. You can tell that they do really like know each other, care about each other, but that B just does not feel the same way that he does, which is sad. And then her parents are like away from the frame thinking that they're flirting with each other and that they're getting back together, and then Ben also catches a glimpse of that, but it's not anything, it's just them talking basically. So in the kitchen, Margaret and Ben are talking, and she asks him about B, and they also have like a little bonding moment, I guess. And then I guess they have pretty strong coffee in Australia. I don't know if that's true, I've never been there. But he is like literally panicking while he is going to Ben's room, thinking that Margaret thinks they're together, and he kind of tells her that they need to change up their plan so that Margaret will want to get back together with him. And she kind of like slaps him, and he's like, you need to get it together, like blah blah blah. So I thought it was funny because he was like literally like bouncing off the wall, just being crazy. So it is now the rehearsal dinner for the wedding, and like I said, this entire movie just moves like so quickly. Like the scenes are just like, because it takes place like during a weekend, which is why the time jump was so like to me. But anyway, it's now time for the rehearsal dinner, like I said, and B is wearing this like beautiful, like just stunning blue dress that looks amazing on her. So her and Ben have like a little moment as they're getting off the yacht. They kind of have to all drive in these like cars to get to where they need to be, and he helps her get off the car and kind of like grips her waist and stuff. It's really romantic, and everyone's just kind of like ogling at them. But I thought it was a cute moment. And so they also have a little moment on the yacht while everyone's dancing, and then they also head to like the tip of the yacht and kind of decide to do the like Titanic move, like the whole, I can't do it with the microphone, but it's like the whole standing at the edge with your like arms outstretched kind of thing. And so they kind of do it to try and seal the deal with everyone, so they can like see that they are actually together. So the entire group kind of spots them, and they're like, oh my god, that's so cute, blah blah blah. And then Jonathan and Margaret kind of like linger longer than the rest of the group to watch them, and they're kind of like, I guess, slightly upset that they're being cute and having a moment, I guess. So once everyone like stops looking and they're like, okay, we're done now, B literally fucking falls overboard. Like literally they turn around and she just falls, and I'm like, oh my god. So Ben jumps after her like immediately as the yacht is like literally sailing fucking away, and no one sees them like fall. And they're panicking because they're like literally in the middle of the ocean, but they spot this buoy in the middle and they head over to it. And anytime I see a buoy scene, I can only think of Aquamarine. I mean, if you've seen that movie, the buoy scene is just iconic, and every time I see a buoy, it's a core memory for me, especially in like scenes like that where people are stuck. That was just my thought immediately. I might actually do a recap of Aquamarine, because that movie is literally, it's iconic. Literally like made my entire childhood. Even though I'm 25 and I don't care, I will still watch it. Do you guys want me to do an Aquamarine recap? Let me know in the comments, because I will. I have so many ideas. And doing movies like from my childhood, now being 25, seemed like a fun idea. But Aquamarine is just epic. I think I saw it when I was 7. Anyway, back to the actual point, which is Sydney Sweeney and Glen Powell. So they spot the buoy and they try to like swim over to it. It's not that far away from them. And obviously Ben is like struggling a little bit because he can't swim. long distances. And so finally their families like spot them and they start panicking. So they call like, I guess, search and rescue. What is it? Harbor rescue in Australia, so that they can like go rescue them basically. And so while on the buoy, Bee and Ben like kind of have the most intense like bonding moment that they've had like throughout the entire film. She kind of reveals why she broke up with Jonathan and that she dropped out of law school basically. So they also talk about the night that they spent together, and then Ben asked her why she snuck out or why she was trying to leave in the morning, and she says that it like scared her because it's the first time that she had ever felt a spark with anyone, and he tells her that he was hurt and that is why he said those things about her, like called her nothing, that he basically lied to Pete about everything, but that he didn't mean it. So the helicopter finally comes on to get them, and Ben starts panicking because he doesn't like flying. So he reveals to her that he has this like serenity routine so that he doesn't panic, and B starts singing Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield to him, and he's like, how did you know like my serenity song, blah 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 blah, and then he kind of joins her in singing, and then it turns into like this whole like just singing thing basically, and the song comes on and it's a nice moment, and it's like as they're like ascending onto the helicopter. So I thought that was fun. So they get back home, and for some reason like the family and no one is there. Like, I don't understand why they were the first ones to arrive when they were the ones that had to get rescued, but that's not my business. So they get home and they start cooking a grilled cheese sandwich like the first time they hung out, and they have like a little flirtation moment, and they have this like really intense like kissing scene in the kitchen, and she like, I think it's him or her that like slam their hands into like the what you call it, the cupboard like windows, or like, you know, the cupboard things, I guess, and there's like a handprint on it the next morning, and they eventually have sex in the shower. After that, they're cuddling in bed, and Ben kind of says that they're getting pretty good at faking it, and B responds that she doesn't know what is real, and that everything that she feels, like everything she does, is a mistake, and that obviously hurts Ben, and he starts like panicking again. I'm like, girl, watch what you say. Like, they just need to like think before they speak basically, because every time they open their mouths they just say stupid shit to each other. Yeah, the miscommunication trope in really any book or like romance specifically is like my pet peeve of life. I can't do the miscommunication trope. It's very overused and sometimes it's very poorly done, but they do it. So he starts panicking, and then she falls asleep, and then the rest of the families like show up looking for them, but he gets up and leaves like she did basically the first night. So she wakes up and finds him gone, and that like upsets her. She like starts kind of crying, I think, basically. So the next morning, it's the day of the wedding, and then Peter and Ben are off doing errands for the wedding, like picking up flowers, and they're talking about Margaret and B, and Peter helps Ben realize basically that he is actually in love with B, not with Margaret. So yeah, and then Margaret and B are the ones picking up the wedding cake, so they talk about her and Ben and how they're not seriously dating, and then Margaret asks if it's okay if she goes after Ben, and B says that he really likes her basically. So everything kind of blows up when B's parents come back, and they now know that B hasn't quit school, and that everything kind of went to crap since she broke up with Jonathan, and everyone kind of starts trickling in, and it's like the most intense scene in the movie. Everyone kind of like starts coming in, and the truth is like finally revealed for everything, basically. And then her sister Hallie is shocked that she is quit, and then her parents ask if it's like their fault, that they're sorry that they pushed her to succeed her whole life, basically, which is such a cop-out. I mean, they put so much pressure on her, and then they're kind of like, well, sorry we like pushed you to succeed your whole life. It's like the reason why she's doing this is because she feels like she will never be like good enough for them, which is a very normal way to feel. I think when parents put pressure on you, I think it's normal to feel like nothing you ever do is ever going to be good enough, or that you're never going to amount to their expectations. So I don't really like blame her for like wanting to explore, or just really like not telling them, basically, like, because they probably would have like blown up at her had she told them that she quit or that she wanted to try something new. So, and then B is like telling her mom like, no, this isn't like about you, Mom, which is not. But they eventually like start kind of arguing with each other, and that they tell her that they're not going to let her throw her life away. And then Ben comes into the picture, and then they both start arguing, but B says that he's alone because he's not trustworthy, because he is the one that actually told Pete that B had quit school, and then Pete told, I think, the stepdad, and then it all kind of like trickled from there, basically. And then B is like, well, we actually weren't together the entire time, we were faking it. And then I don't know if I said, but they have this dog that does tricks with this like toy that Pete has been like kind of training throughout the movie to like get the toy, basically. And for some reason it is like underneath the cake, and it's like kind of poking through there, and I guess it's because everyone is bickering and yelling that the dog, like, basically in the midst of them arguing, the dog goes for the toy and pulls it off the table, and it just knocks the fucking cake over. So Claudia, Pete's sister, is obviously upset, and so she leaves, and then B apologizes and runs away from everyone. So later that day, it's closer to the actual wedding, because I think it's like the actual day of the wedding at this point. So Ben overhears Claudia and Hallie arguing over the wedding and the stress of it, and that there's no point in them doing that, and they don't know why they're actually doing this. So eventually, somehow, everyone like leaves to go to the wedding, and then Ben and B apologize to Claudia and Hallie for all the mess that they've been causing, and that they're going to behave and they're not going to screw up the wedding. So B and her parents eventually talk it out, and they just like resolved the issue like too soon. I feel like if everything would have like been revealed a little bit earlier, I would have maybe appreciated it more, but it just felt like everything in the end was so rushed, and everyone was like too happy, like when it came to the day of the wedding. I don't know, it was like such a big deal in the moment when it was revealed, and then not even a day later they talk it out and they're fine. And I don't know, it just wasn't that believable in my opinion. It was a little bit poor writing in that part, and I just think it could have been panned out a little bit better. And then Margaret and Ben are dancing together at the wedding. So Margaret tells Ben that B said that they were just like quote unquote situational, and that she tells him that she misses him. So kind of tries to, I guess, kiss him. She kind of like kisses like the corner of his mouth, I think, and B catches a glimpse of that and thinks that they're like making out or actually kissing. And then Ben tells Margaret that he is sorry, that he doesn't want to do it, that he kind of feels like he's been holding on to a memory of her and not like the actual person. And so as this is happening, B is upset that she sees them like, I guess, kiss, but they didn't actually kiss. So she gets upset and she walks away. So she, I think, had told Ben at some point in the movie that she liked to go to the Sydney Opera House to just like people watch, basically. So that's where she goes. And I don't know, this also kind of was like, really? Because it's like, it's her sister's wedding day, and she's like the maid of honor, and she's just gonna like run off to go cry at some other location. Like, I didn't appreciate it. I mean, her sister was fine with it, which is okay, but at the same time, it's like, it's your family, it's your sister's wedding day, and you just, like, fuck off, basically, because you're upset that this guy that you have been, quote-unquote, fake dating the entire time kissed the girl that he had said that he was actually, like, interested in the beginning, which, like, is not the truth, but I don't know, it just, the whole, like, wedding pissed me off. Because it just, like, a lot of things, like, did not make sense to me. The way they just panned him out. It just, a little bit poor writing, in my opinion. But it's okay, because it's fine. It doesn't ruin my day. So everyone, as B is, like, gone to the Sydney Opera House, they kind of try and trick Ben, like they had been previously, by, like, insinuating to him that he needs to run after B, basically, and follow her. So he does, and he does it in a very dramatic way. He, like, runs off a cliff, and and as he's, like, jumping off, he's like, call Harbor Rescue to, like, go get him, which I'm like, bitch, just get a cab. Like, what? It's not like she was going anywhere. She was literally just going to the Sydney Opera House. She wasn't, like, I don't know. But he jumps off all dramatic, and eventually Harbor Rescue, like, comes and gets him. He's, like, all nervous on the freaking helicopter, and they take him to the Sydney Opera House, where he catches up with B. So he catches up to B and tells her that Margaret is the one that actually kissed him, which, like, whatever. Y'all weren't actually together. Whatever. So they both kind of give their big romantic speeches, and he apologizes for how he handled everything since they met, and that he couldn't face the idea of losing her, someone that he loves, blah blah blah. So it's like this big love confession, which is fine. So they kiss, and then that's the end of the movie. Basically, we don't see them, like, actually as a couple in the end. And then the end montage is everyone in the cast singing Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield in different scenes throughout the movie, which I thought was actually a very cute touch. I did watch, like, the whole credit scene because it just was entertaining to watch everybody. But yeah, that's how the movie ends, basically. I think, in my opinion, with the exception of the ending, because it just felt brushed. A lot of the writing points in the ending I did not agree with, or the plot points. It just, I don't know. How the parents found out and they reacted, and then them resolving it so quickly. I feel like if they could have found out a little bit sooner than, like, the second to last scene in the movie, and then kind of, I don't know, held a little bit more of a grudge, or, like, I don't know, seeing them, like, kind of struggle through that a little bit more, basically. And then the whole miscommunication thing with Margaret in the end with the kiss too, it was like, y'all weren't really, like, actually dating. Like, it was never to the point. I mean, yes, they had kissed and had sex when they got back from, like, the yacht and the buoy and everything, but they had never actually had a discussion of, like, what they were going to be. And the plan still was to make Margaret jealous. So that's whatever. But all in all, I really do think that this movie was, like, it had the perfect formula for, like, a romantic comedy, like a modern one, at least one in 2023, 2024, because I feel like the industry has really been missing romantic comedies that, like, really hit for some reason, because I know, like, early 2000s completely dominated, like, the box office and the industry, and they are just cult classics that I will continue to rewatch, like, to this day. Like, do not play with me about a rom-com. Like, I will watch those till the day I die. And I think it was time that we really got, like, a really good one. I don't know. it was really good. There were some scenes that I really enjoyed, and obviously the chemistry between Sydney and Glen was literally off the freaking charts, and they really leaned into the behind the scenes rumors that were happening, and I think that really kind of also just lent to the success of the film. But it was a good one. Like, I would watch it, like, again, 100%. And I don't know if I mentioned that Sydney also was like a producer for the film. I think it was done with her production company, or she was like a producer, which I think is awesome for her. I know that she's like a little bit greener in the industry. She's not like as established as a lot of actors that are more seasoned in the industry that have their own production companies. But I think especially women in the industry now, they're like, I think of Margot Robbie, like Reese Witherspoon with Hello Sunshine, like that production studio. So I'm happy for her that she's like kind of branching out and into more of like a business model, and it not just being like her talents as an actress, but just like as a businesswoman too. I think she's like super smart. I don't think people give her like a lot of credit for like how business wise, like how smart she is. So good for her. And yeah, Glen Powell again in like another great romantic comedy movie. I think the last one that I had seen of him that I really enjoyed was Set It Up on Netflix with Zoe Dutch and Lucy Liu and Taye Diggs. I think that's who was in that. And I actually really enjoyed that one too. I think they had like incredible chemistry too. I think he just lends himself really well to romantic comedies. He just has that like golden boy charm, I guess, basically. And this is the first time I had seen Sydney in something a little bit less serious, I think, as like a leading role, basically. Before this, I had only really seen her in Euphoria and White Lotus, which was a little bit comedy, but not too much. So yeah, I think she did a great job. And like I said, they had incredible chemistry. And they ran with the rumors, and I know it's like breaking box office records for like a romance film in like 2023, 2024, basically. Or like adaptation. I think it's a Shakespeare adaptation. I'm not exactly sure. It's not like perfect cinema, but it had like all the makings of the perfect modern rom-com that we were needing, in my opinion. I think, or I hope, with the success of this one, that studios will put more effort or like more money into making more films like this, because they can be successful. Just because they're not blockbusters or action films does not mean that they can't be successful. Like, we need stuff like this too. You can't just be putting all your money into like the latest action or latest superhero movie. I think it should be everything. If it's good, it's good. People are going to respond to it. I mean, look at the Barbie movie. No one probably would have ever thought that a film about a doll was going to be as successful as it did, and Greta Gerwig proved everyone wrong, as always. So yeah, I think that is it for this week's episode. I don't exactly know what I'm going to do next week. I'm trying to decide if I want to do a TV show or a book, because I do have a couple of books in the pipeline to recap, but I have to think about the timeline for something that I'm trying to do in the next couple of weeks, which will be like a multi-episode, like longer series recap that is leading up to a new season coming up soon. That gives you enough of a clue of maybe what I wanted to do, because I do want to talk about like the other seasons before this new one comes on. I just don't know if I want to do, because I haven't done a TV show. So I low-key might do that. But I have to see if I have enough time to rewatch this season, at least the first one, and do my notes and everything, since, I don't know, we will figure it out. But yeah, thank you so much to anyone who stuck around to listen. I'm very grateful that I got the response that I did so far on my first couple of episodes. I never would have expected one person to listen, so to have the feedback that I have so far is amazing. So I'm very grateful and thankful, because I am putting a lot of time and effort into this apart from my full-time job that I have. So it means a lot that people are taking the time to just sit and listen to me just talk. So I am grateful and hope to keep doing this more. Like I said, I hope that my personality starts coming out a little bit more. I know that the first couple of episodes, I recorded all of them the same day, so I was very tired doing 3 episodes in one go, and then my allergies were just literally acting up like so crazy that day, so I probably was even more exhausted. My energy levels were just, they were horrible. Thank you so much for listening, and I do hope you enjoy. Stay tuned next week for the next episode. I don't quite know what it's going to be, but yeah. And I have all of my social media listed below if you want to follow me. Like I said, if you're watching on YouTube, everything will be linked in the description, or if you are listening to just the audio on your podcasting platform, it should be in the description also. I have Instagram, I have YouTube if you're more into visual content. I hope to keep integrating that in a better way as I go. Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. I think Instagram is like the main place where I'm going to do updates and clips, and then obviously do like reels and TikToks for sneak peeks, and then additional content too if I can. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. Please do not forget to like, rate, and leave a review. That would really help the podcast a lot, since I am just now starting doing all this on my own, kind of figuring out how this works. So yeah, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day. If you haven't listened to my other episodes, they should be uploaded now, whether on YouTube or any podcasting platform. If you want to listen, I did an introduction, I did a film review of All of Us Strangers, and the first book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses, which I will be going into that entire body of work of Sarah J. Maas as the weeks go by. I am currently working on the next book, so yeah. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.